Alright, welcome to the news once again. For anyone that's been keeping up, I usually do this with my friend Hugh, but he's unavailable again, so hopefully he'll be back next week and stop slacking. But for now, I'm going to go over all this week's biggest news in what most interests me in general, or even stuff that doesn't. But I'm going to try and give my thoughts and opinions for you. The big one I'm going to start with this week is Microsoft is allegedly buying Mojang, I don't know how to say it, sorry. Which kind of sucks, obviously. I don't really know that many people who are that positive about that news. I don't really, it's still all a rumour. It seemed like it was going to be confirmed quite early on, but the kind of radio silence on Notch's and Microsoft's behalf is probably more worrying than anything else, because you would have thought that Notch especially would have said it wasn't happening if it wasn't happening. So he's always been kind of outspoken, and if it's true, it's a really sad thing. It is for me, because Minecraft has always represented the I don't know, the opposite to the AAA and everything that I don't like about gaming. All the big companies and everything just trying to milk all the money they can out of it, and Minecraft was made by this this small group, initially just one person, and then this small group of people, and it's been so successful, and it just continues to grow, and it's bigger than the creators itself. In many respects, the modding community has embraced it and so much, created so much crazy stuff, and really Minecraft is a game that must have grown, and things must have happened beyond the imagination of Notch. He couldn't possibly have foreseen the things that people have done with it, and the way it's been used in schools, for instance, and just the way it's developed in general. I think that's kind of the biggest, the biggest sadness about the whole thing is the fact that Minecraft has always been the people's game, I suppose, the game of the people. It was the community that makes it special, and then I don't really know what Microsoft's plans are in general with it. Maybe they'll leave the computer and the PlayStation side of it alone, maybe, and let them update as they were. I really don't know what they plan to do. Will they still have the rights to Minecraft, or are they just buying the studio? It's confusing. I'm sure we'll get some clarity on it fairly soon if it is happening. And obviously, again, it's still a rumour, even if it does seem to be a credible rumour. It's just a shame, really, to see one of these great independent successes be sold to one of the game's corporate giants. It's just, it's sad, because it's one of the things that I look to as being one of my favourite success stories in video games. Just is undermined quite a lot by the whole thing. So that it might be a kind of romantic notion, but it is just how I feel about about that whole affair. Moving on, so some games came out this week. The Sims 4 came out, which I guess is a big release, but really I haven't paid much attention. Do people still pay attention to The Sims? I guess it seems like they do, but I honestly haven't. And from what I gather from the reviews, it's okay. So, Sims fans, enjoy another Sims game. I kind of got bored of them by a long time ago. I liked the first one, and then the second one I lost interest, because they gave the characters too many motivations. I liked playing God personally, and having more control. And in the second one, they added all this stuff they might want a baby, and they'd be depressed if they don't have the right career, or all this stuff. Or I don't know. I didn't like my Sims having having that much control over their own destinies. It wasn't fun for me. So I don't know. Yeah, Sims is still happening. I don't know. I guess they didn't do it. This wasn't an always online game like SimCity, so they didn't fuck up in that respect. Unless it is, and I just don't know about it. Obviously, Destiny. Destiny is out. I feel like I should spend some time talking about it, even though it has absolutely I have no interest in it at all. But I should probably explain why a little bit, I suppose. Destiny looks alright. It probably will be, I've kept up to date with it. It's a big release. It seems like it will be quite polished and probably a good, fun shooting experience for those who want it. But this is why it's not for me. It's just got. It's really hard to. It's kind of hard to put it into words, but the game just, despite the fact that it's the new elements is the kind of, the multiplayer aspect of it, the connected world, and the fact that you play with people. That's the big angle here. It just looks very dull. It looks very uninspired, and it doesn't look very exciting. And it's really hard to put into words why, but I don't know. It's the new side of it is this online side that they're trying to do, where people play with each other, and not just in a kind of lobby way, like in shooters of the last generation. For instance, I guess that's the idea of it's meant to feel more alive and more of an actual world, but it doesn't look too much that way, and the actual gameplay side of it just doesn't seem to be really treading any new ground, which it's kind of a shame, because I think I was probably excited by Destiny at some point in the past, because I was quite a big fan of Bungie originally. I mean, they're not my favourite guys ever, but I do quite enjoy the Halo trilogy, and I've had quite a lot of good times playing Halo multiplayer with my friends. It was actually quite a lot at one point. So I was kind of looking forward to seeing what they did next. I mean, it's been a long time, really, since they released a game, and a new IP was a chance for them to do something new. But I guess Halo, the thing that Halo did that was cool, that made it stand out, I guess at the time, was the fact that it controlled well for a console shooter, which had never really happened to that degree before. Like, it makes you play games that were supposedly excellent and revolution. You play games that were big steps for console first-person shooters, like GoldenEye, for instance, and you go back to them, and they don't feel so great to play. And I think part of the reason is now because controls improved, and I think Halo has a lot to do with it. Someone might disagree and might be able to show you what did it first, but Halo was certainly the first, a big game that and everything's kind of followed in its wake a little bit since, in terms of having the two weapon loadouts and the sort of online focus. And I think Call of Duty took a lot, when Call of Duty 4 happened, it took a lot of Halo successes and then added in stuff that I didn't like personally. I guess that's something for another video, but Halo still, for the original trilogy, the multiplayer mode I thought was still pretty good, because it was still kind of a level, balanced playing field where people went into the same levels and they all had the same guns they started with, and they just had to find the better weapons around the map, and it was just about how good you were at the game, which I feel is not always the case in Call of Duty. Can't really say as of yet, early days in Destiny, whether that's the case or not. I know that Destiny does have a leveling up system and experience system, which I think is always ill-fitted with an online shooter, a competitive online shooter anyway, but I am I'm aware that there is a mode where everyone is on the same playing field. So I don't know what fun it is multiplayer, but honestly, I was more excited by Titanfall of all the big new shooters, which is quite surprising to me because when it got announced, I thought it would be shit because it looked like Call of Duty with mechs, and like there is an element of that still there, and there are parts of the online part of it that I don't like, but I always thought that game was a bit fresher and a bit actually had some real new ideas, or at least was trying to do something a little bit different. Which I appreciated and actually had surprising amount of fun with when I did play it, although not quite enough for me to go out and buy it. So on other news, they plan on auctioning the Atari cartridges that they dug up when they were looking for ET in that landfill. So I probably will buy myself an ET. I don't have an ET, and it's as long as it's not super expensive, but apparently it should not be because they weren't really that expensive anyway, or that sought after. But I kind of want to own gaming's like shittest game, you know, just for me. I think it'll be fun just to try. It'll be because people are always gonna want to come around and be like, oh, let's play this. I want to see what this shit game is really. Why is it so bad? And it'll be, I don't know, it'll be fun. A part of gaming history, I suppose. I wouldn't mind having it. There's a new 3DS coming out, or a new 3DS skin coming out, really. Which looks like a NES, which is cool. But it's not coming out in Europe, so fuck you, Nintendo. I didn't plan on buying it anyway because I have a 3DS, but you know, it's still lame. Why is it not coming out in Europe? I mean, it's like the good old NES days all over again when they didn't let us have that for ages, and now they want to relive it with the 3DS. But it's fine. Maybe Sega will release a Master System 3DS, and I don't know. I doubt. Obviously they won't. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Some details have come out about that. Most interestingly, I suppose, from a newsy point of view, is the fact that it's going to be broken into episodes, 4 episodes, I believe, at first, and then will be released as a full game after that. At first, I thought, well, that sucks because they're trying. It's Capcom trying to get money out of everyone. It's not that bad though, really. I guess I haven't really played the original Revelations, but apparently it was kind of episodic anyway, or the way that the levels were structured, so it shouldn't be too big a deal in terms of pacing. I mean, if I was going to buy it, I would just wait for the disc, but you know, some people have had some success with episodic games like The Walking Dead, for instance. Obviously, it's quite successful as a video game. And they probably want some of that success. I think the Revelations games are actually meant to be okay as far as new Resident Evils go. Not quite as good as the originals, but actually a lot better than 5 and 6 were. So, you know, it's not that big a deal. It's a bit lame, but it's not ultra lame. I guess I can live with it. And the last thing is just a sales thing in the US. The Xbox sales are up. PS4 is still massively on top because I don't know if that's what Sony are doing. They're just winning at the moment. It's sort of interesting because they're, as far as I can tell, both up on what 360s and obviously PS3s were previous generation. So I guess that's kind of showing again how much gaming has grown since those days, because the 360. I recall sold quite well, and people say that the Xbox One isn't, and it's outselling it. So, so that's got to be worth noting somehow. I don't know what that means money-wise for Microsoft though. And Sony is winning in what must be Microsoft's home territory, pretty much. So that's probably the biggest aspect of that, is that, you know, you'd expect Microsoft to do best in the US, and but Sony is still going strong, and it really is kind of hard to see where that's going to change for the next gen consoles. Sony seem to have they're gonna have to mess up quite significantly, I think, or because it's hard to see what Microsoft can really do now because they're committed to the Xbox One. They can, once you start price slashing things, I think they haven't got to that point yet, apart from when they took the Kinect off and made it cheaper, but like it's the next step to try and reduce the price of the Xbox, because that is always, it's kind of like an admission of defeat really when you're doing that, when you're having to cut your price to compete. You probably still won't, but you'll get a small boost in sales initially, would be my guess. So Sony, yeah, it's really hard to see where so Sony might just run away with it, as it were, which is good and bad, I suppose. Sony did have presented the superior machine, and by all accounts is easy to develop for, and they didn't try any nonsense, or as much nonsense, when they were launching it. They're definitely not perfect over there at old Sony, but I guess, yeah, I don't know, I can't really be that excited about one console being so much more successful than another, because it doesn't really mean anything for me. I think competition would be better. It'd be better if it was a closer thing, but in this day and age, AAA gaming is kind of, there isn't a lot of, like, in the old days, not to be nostalgic, but before, it felt like where there was real competition was through, like, games had these exclusivities and these things, and they were all trying to do something different and trying to do something original to try and bring in their audience. It's not so possible anymore. There's not so many. I mean, Sony seem to have more like exclusives that are that they've put the money into, or that their studios and whatever, which is used to see a lot more of that sort of thing. Become a lot less, where most companies would be foolish for a company to release their game on only one, because they'd just be like, as what Tomb Raider did, for instance. It's not been seen as a wise business move really, because they're not going to get a lot of their audience is gone now. I mean, they will release it later, but initially there's that, they're going to miss out on a lot of sales. And Microsoft's tactic at the moment, as now evidenced with the Tomb Raider thing and possibly with the Minecraft thing, is that they are trying to do the usual big company monopolizing thing of buying out the competition. But I don't see how that's going to work in their favour. Thus far, it seems to be not a good way of going about things, whereas Sony have seemed to more invested their money in original things. Like, they've invested and co-working on Bloodborne, which is not going to be the biggest seller on their console, I doubt, but it's a good exclusive that's appealing to a niche, which is, or a big niche, admittedly, so I don't know if it's still a niche, but it's appealing to a smaller sector of the market, I suppose, but it's still a better way of doing it. And apparently, I don't know if are they doing it with Silent Hills as well? Apparently that's a collaborative effort, I'm not 100% sure. Like, they've put their money into it to make it happen, and like to produce it instead of buying a pre-existing product, and this is seems to be their way of doing things, which makes the PS4 just seem more appealing on top of all the other aspects. Anyway, I think that's enough from me. I don't actually have a next-gen console yet, so I'll probably be a lot more informed one day on this sort of thing, but that's just the way that I see it. But yeah, that's all the news that I can think of that I wrote down to discuss, so see you next week for some more news.